Hello everyone, thanks for joining me back on StubbleMeetsSteel. So today's a special episode. Today is the day I finally get to reveal my awesome razor that I did the collaboration with Alpha Shaving Works. And so this whole razor basically started around Christmas time. I was just messaging Steve from Alpha Shaving Works to purchase a Cape Cod base plate for my Shave Dad razor. And he let me do the transaction, of course, and then he kind of just casually mentioned, he's like, hey, how about a StubbleMeetsSteel collaborator in 2025? And I was thrilled at the suggestion. And so, I wasn't really sure what to do. There was already the Alpha Shave Dad out, and then this was the second version that came with the slightly different handle, and then there's the Lone Star, and then there's the Cape Cod, and then there's also another version that was introduced to a UK shaving forum club, and that one has a little bit different handles, kind of similar to the Cape Cod. And so those were a ton of awesome aluminum razors. While I do love aluminum razors, I was like, well, geez, how am I going to compete with all that great competition? What could I do differently to bring a great razor? And so Steve and I started talking, and he's like, hey, StubbleMeetsSteel, you want to do a stainless steel razor? And I was like, I love that idea, Steve, but I was like, I'm not sure. I was like, let me think about it. So then he threw out the kicker, and this is when the light bulb finally went off for me. He's like, how about brass? And I had been looking for a perfect brass razor since I started this hobby. I had seen the Copper Cant, I had seen the Goodfellas Bayonetta, obviously the Carve Overlander first came out in brass, or that's one of the most common colors you see it in is brass. And so, there was a couple other brass razors, but none of them suited my picky ass as far as looks wise. And, I've always just wanted that barber pole. And to me, that was one of the stipulations of the design that I was adamant about. And, I'll be honest, I'm picky. And I was just waiting for Steve to message me back and say, I changed my mind, lose my email. Because, I kept changing my mind as to what I wanted on this thing. And one of the ones that I was really adamant about was the barber pole handle. I said, if looks wise to me, I said it just knocks out of the park. I love how it is kind of a homage to old school vintage razors. And, it's just not a pattern you see all that much. Razor Rock has their barber pole handle, but you don't really see that handle all that much, and it's pretty hard to get. So that was at the point where I realized, John, this is your point to make the razor that you've been looking for all this time. And so, that was my initial motivation, was to make what I considered my dream razor. And one of the things was brass, and the other thing I wanted was the barber pole. And I love my Shave Dad razor, and the head geometry on the Shave Dad for me was spot on. I really, really liked the Shave Dad shave geometry. I had also at one point had the Outlaw or the Evo Evolution Outlaw model, and that one is a 0.70 gap, and for me it was just a little bit too much at particular times, whereas the Shave Dad, I really love it. It's just fantastic for me. And the Lone Star with the extra gap, I can still work with that one, and I like the fact that I can just basically modularly plate change to crank up the aggression of this. But what it did was it gave me a lot of information, because I spoke to a lot of people, and for the most part, everybody loves the Shave Dad, but there was quite a few gentlemen that found that it was a little bit too mild for them. And so that was when Steve offered the open comb for these, and everybody loved the open comb. They're like, wow, that was perfect. That was just the bump up that it needed. And so when Steve and I were collaborating to make this razor, he said that the gap and the specs and stuff were not changed on the open comb. And so that kind of gave me the information that I needed to spec out the open comb. And one of the things that I really wanted to do was, my whole intention of this project from the get-go was I wanted a razor that everybody could enjoy. I wanted, for me and for everybody, that perfect daily driver that pretty much anybody could use on the closed comb bar, and then also enjoy the open comb. And for me, that was tough because, I do like some open combs, but I find that on my neck, they often irritate me. So for me personally, I find that it's hard to find that perfect sweet spot with the open combs in particular. So, I have some hybrid razors that I have a open comb on one side and a closed comb on the other. And 9 times out of 10, in my experience with those anyways, is the closed comb is either too mild or the open comb is too aggressive, or I can only use one side of the, comb and really enjoy it. Or sometimes they both miss the mark. So, I didn't want that to happen. I didn't want to take away the smoothness and greatness that I get out of the Shave Dad head. But you know, I didn't want to crank it all the way up to the Lone Star specs, because for me personally, it's kind of on that limit. The Lone Star, I can use it, but some days it's a little bit much. And the other criteria that I wanted was I wanted to make it efficient enough with a mild blade. And the reason for that is because then obviously if it works with a mild blade like the Filosos, I do like the Filosos, they're a smooth blade, but the reason why I chose them was because they're a nice, you know, more mild blade. They're not the sharpest blade in the bunch. And I wanted the razor to be able to achieve efficiency with a more mild blade. And so that was my brainchild. I wanted a 3.5 inch long handle. I wanted the blade gap, I decided to do 0.77. I was initially going to do a 0.80 gap, and I was worried that the extra weight might kind of bridge that gap and kind of push it over a little bit too much. So I went with a 0.77 gap, 3.5 millimeter handle. And, you know, again, learning curve for me, I've never designed a razor, and I wanted a thick, beefy handle. This is about 13.5 inches in diameter, or 13.5 millimeter. And when we were designing it, Steve said, we got a little bit of a problem. I'm like, what's that? He's like, it's about 150 grams when it was fully solid. And so that's the reason why we made it hollow. And we lightened it to 111 grams, because basically the only other options we had were to shorten the handle or to make it thinner. I definitely didn't want to go thinner. And, you know, I personally do like a 3.25 inch handle, but I have about a large sized hand. And so I was worried that the 3.25 would be too small for some people, and that the 3.5, I talked to some people that make razors and everybody agreed that that's like the most common size that most people choose is a 3.5. So that was why I went with that. And, you know, it was really, really, really tough for me to decide on the open comb whether I should bump up the gap, if I should keep the gap the same. Like I said, I was reluctant to kind of push it far out of that comfort zone for me and ruin anything there. So those were the specs that I decided on. And so for today's shave, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to use both the open and the closed comb. And to kind of give you a little bit better sneak peek of the razor up close, I'm going to go down to the bench here and I'm going to show you the razor up close and personal. So we're going to cut away to that. And then when we come back, let's get into the shave. All right, everyone, so I thought I'd give everybody a close-up of the razor, for those that haven't seen it. The whole assembly is fully polished. The entire razor is made of brass. I'll open it up for you. It does come with a washer. I usually just throw those on the floor because that's usually where they wind up. Inside is fully polished as well. Inside the top cap. I went with a smooth safety bar instead of scalloped. I was going for the smoothest effect that I could get. Here is the open comb plate, also fully polished. Comes with the stand. All right, now for the fun part. Let's get into the shave, gentlemen. All right, everybody, so I'm back. For today's soap, we're gonna use Homestead Barbershop, and this is by a small artisan that I'm friends with on Etsy. Adopted Acres is the name of the company, and I'll put the information down in the info section below. We were talking about straight razors, and you know, he has a bunch of straight razors, and so he was loaning me some of the straight razors to try. And he just happened to send me a sample of the soap. And, you know, honestly, I kind of gave up on Barbershop scents. You know, I've tried a bunch of different ones and none of them were bad, but none of them were like, wow, I need to run out and buy this. You got to smell this type scent. And this one was finally one of the ones that was like, wow, smell this. You know, the wife and the kids, everybody loves it. The other day we were cruising somewhere. My wife was driving. I was sitting in the passenger seat. And my 9-year-old's like, what is that smell? And she's like, it smells so good in the car. And my wife was like, that's your dad. She's like, you mean like the cologne kind of smell? And she's like, yeah, that's it. So, you know, it's definitely an awesome scent. And the other thing that really stood out to me on this soap was the cushion and the tallow. It's a tallow-based soap. And the cushion on it is just unreal for me. As I mentioned, he uses straight razors, and so He wanted a high tallow formula for the extra cushion for the straight razors, and I have to say, he knocked out of the park. Also has great slickness and residual slickness. Get my sprayer here. Get a little more water in there. Put a little more water in there, why not? Oh, let me grab my towel. Don't mind my sweet farmer stand. All right, so we'll go to the right side of the face. I'll do the closed comb. You noticed yesterday with the brass, it has cool audible feedback. I really like the shaved head profile. I like the fact that you can ride the top cap and smooth things out. Play with the angle, so to speak. All right, let's go to the open comb side. Put the shaved head away so I don't accidentally knock it on the floor. All right, let's go to the open comb side. If you ride the top cap, I find the open comb very manageable. Very nice. Hold on one moment, I'll be right back. All right, sorry about that distraction. Let's get back into it here. We'll go against the grain on my neck. Get a little more water in that. All right. Open comb is smooth and manageable. Pop over to the closed comb side. There is a slight variance in the open comb and the closed comb side right there. You know, obviously with the teeth, the blade can just contact the face a little bit easier. So you feel it a little bit more, but it's not over the top by any means. It's pretty much that perfect progression that I was looking for, where you can tell it has some more efficiency, has a little more blade feel because it's not a closed comb, but not over the top like, wow, this is a totally different razor. I can't even use this open comb. That was what I wanted to avoid. Closed comb side again for across the grain. Go ahead and switch the plates over here. Very nice pass with the open comb there. Let's do the last pass here. We'll do the against the grain. Thought I heard the little dog come in. He did. Got tired of opening the door for him, so I just put a dog door in the door. Makes it a lot easier. All right, let's finish up here. Open comb side again. Open comb was a little bit tricky under the nose and mustache pass there, but still manageable. Again, if I ride the top cap, it's very easy to work with. The head profile is easy enough for me to get underneath the nose. I do pig nose off camera anyways with pretty much any razor. You go ahead and get rinsed up here. I'll just use the water. Now that it's hot out, again, I like the spray bottle. Just a tiny bit right here. All right, let me get rinsed up. All right, I'm back. I got the aftershave splash for this. And I like that, two things. He's the only vendor I've ever bought a splash from that came in a vacuum sealed bag, like fully vacuum sealed. That I thought was an awesome attention to detail. The packaging on everything was fantastic. And he includes both a spray bottle as well as an easy dispense cap. And I thought that was a really cool touch. Give you some options as to how to dispense it to your liking. But the scent on it is fantastic, and it's got a lot of skin food in it. So back to the Guido. Well, it's exceeded my expectations. The fit and finish on it, I mean, Steve brought my image and dream to reality. The fit and finish and the look of this thing, especially in person and in pictures, is absolutely fantastic, stunning, just beautiful. Far exceeds what I could have ever dreamed of. And, for me, my main criteria, as I mentioned, was I wanted something I could use both the open comb and the closed comb daily and enjoy. And I felt like with the specs that I've picked, that not only do I enjoy it, but I felt like all of the masses, for the most part, I feel if you were to pick 10 wet shavers you know, 7 or 8 out of 10 people would enjoy this razor, whether it was the open comb, closed comb, or both. And so I feel that I've achieved that. I'm super proud of this project and how everything turned out. Working with Steve was really awesome and easy. You know, he's so talented. I could tell him, you know, change it like this, change it like that. And like minutes later, it seemed, you know, he would send me a picture, a CAD a CAD rendering, or, you know, a picture changed on the fly, just super quick, no problem at all. So, you know, it's been a super fun project. I hope everybody enjoys it. As far as upkeep and maintenance, my main suggestions to you would be, I like Brasso, I like Flitz, I like Mother's brand mag and wheel polish. Any of those with a microfiber cloth to polish out the top would be my advice. To get into the nooks and crannies and stuff of the handle, I would say get a soft bristle toothbrush and use any of those products that I mentioned, and that should keep it nice for you if you want to polish it. I chose Brass, you know, very specifically. I love the look of it, but I also like that it's a picky pain in the ass like me. If you want to polish it, it's stunning and beautiful and looks like gold, or you can just do nothing and it'll create this awesome patina, you know, old world look, distressed look, so to speak. And the cool thing about the patina is no two will be the same, because it depends on how the water is left on it, depends on your climate. Everybody's razor will patina a little bit different. And so I really like that. Brass is also antimicrobial, and it also has heat retention. If you get it hot underneath the faucet, it'll retain heat more so than other metals. So it kind of creates a nice premium shave experience. Well, there you have it, everybody. I hope you enjoyed the Guido razor debut. I hope everybody that's getting one loves it. That's my goal, and I hope that everybody really enjoys it. And if not, I understand. Hey, as we say in this hobby, your mileage may vary, but that's my wish, is that everybody enjoys it. Well, stay tuned. Thanks for subbing to my videos, and I hope everybody enjoyed the review. And if everybody could give me some more likes and subs, I'm almost close to 1,000, and I really like the bump. So thanks for watching, everybody, and I look forward to talking to everybody in the comments.